they're one of the most prolific A/B testers on the entire internet. Right now, if you stop this podcast and go to booking.com and you try a different browser, a different VPN, a different device, you will get a different website, like micro differences, right? Like a button's a different color, the copy's one word different, the color is slightly different. But Bilal, it's insane, right?
Yeah, incredible. And even on the ad side, they're trying like thousands of different types of ad techs. The bidding strategies are changing. One campaign has extensions, the other one doesn't. Like all the kind of details of search specifically, they're testing all of them.
Yeah, well, so we'll talk about that. A key point I want to make about Booking's A/B testing infrastructure is it's both technologically impressive, but also culturally impressive. Because if you want to build an A/B testing culture like they have, like if you're the CEO, you have to be willing to let the A/B test tell you you're fucking wrong, right? Like if you have an intuition and the A/B test says your idea is fucking dumb, you're out, right? It's like a cultural thing too.
All right, welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. You got Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi. We've got the top half of Trung's head again. And you'll hear this again in the AMA a few weeks from now because we pre-recorded some of those. But some absolute banger comments, Trung, from last week's episode. VM said Trung with broken back has perfect audio after all these years of him complaining about your audio. And then Zach Cruz on YouTube said, Trung's got the same camera angle as my grandma on a FaceTime. Absolute banger as well. Yeah, bro. How you feeling, mate? Discussed, your back is still on repair mode.
No, just it's at this point, man, you don't want to aggravate it. And the point being, my audio is good, so let's keep it going. We might just keep this from now on, man. I like this.
Yeah, people have been enjoying it in different ways.
You know what? Maybe this becomes our thing. You know what? This is just our thing.
The lay down pod. Yeah. Well, another comment from someone was, we need all three of you doing it for one of the pods, which would be a different vibe. But yeah. All right, let's get straight into this, Trung. I know we got a lot going on. Booking.com. Let's start with Booking.com. We're going to talk about Booking.com, FedEx, Fred Smith, who once famously bet $5,000 in Vegas to save the company on blackjack. Yeah. We're going to break that down. And if we get to it, Nintendo Switch as well, we've saved that topic.
We'll definitely do those three. This will be a nice three.
There we go. So let's talk about Booking.com, one of the best tech acquisitions ever, you've said in your recent writing, from $294 million to $170 billion. Insane company. Really quickly, for people who don't use it, right? It's the
I'd be shocked at this point if everyone didn't know.
Everyone knows. Yeah, if you're booking a hotel, you've heard of Booking.com. And they're based in Amsterdam, right? I think they're a Dutch company originally.
They're Amsterdam based. And but also, can you tell what you know about Booking? And the reason I bring this up because the online travel agencies, Booking, Expedia, Kayak, Trivago, Hotel.com, they are huge spenders on Google.
Yeah,
right?
Booking.com, while I was there, was always the biggest advertiser on Google, the number one client for Google for many years. I don't know if they still are. Maybe by now it's someone else, but either way, they're one of the biggest spenders. And if you just think about it, because they're trying to bid on every single search for hotels at the time. Maybe they've expanded to different categories by this point as well. But anytime you're saying hotel in Amsterdam or like a name of a hotel in Barcelona, best hotels, all those things, just think that travel is so research heavy. It's so much, like if you think of the funnel, there's so much time that goes. You don't just go and just book a hotel straight away. You look at the pictures, you read the reviews, and they want to always be the number one place you go to. They also gave free, I use them quite a lot because they often give you free, like if you need to cancel it, you can cancel it for free a lot of the time as well. So yeah, just really crazy business. But yeah, that's pretty much the extent of what I know.
Number one spender.
They were for a long time, and I don't know if that's it probably is public by this, but people say it all the time. It was for a long time the number one spender.
And like you've talked in the past, right? The major categories or the ones that like, I mean, this is not necessarily like a big LTV, like lifetime value, but you just know the ticket is going to be worth it, right? Like,
but in a way it would, because I go back to Booking like even when I know, sometimes I'll find a hotel elsewhere and I go to Booking because it's got all my bookings from the past. And I trust, like the app's kind of easy to use. And I think they have a guarantee of like the cheapest price. So if you find it cheaper somewhere else, they'll match it. So I've just had a good experience with them over the years. So I actually do think LTV wise, it is worth them investing up front to keep that going. And
Bilal,
yeah, go on.
I just want to say you brought up two great points that I wanted to pull the string on, and you told me based on your Google search part, because Google search is such a big part of their business, right? And
Massive,
so I'll give you an example. In 2024, they made $24 billion. So they own a lot of the brands that people are probably familiar with, right? They own Agoda, which is kind of Asia heavy, Kayak, and obviously Booking, and a bunch of other like sub brands. But Booking.com
is Priceline is the overarching name, right?
So yeah, I can give you why it was considered the best deal ever. So let's do this. We'll talk about why it was the best deal ever, considered on a value basis, the Google search piece, and how they use A/B testing, because they're one of the most prolific A/B testers on the entire internet. You probably know this, right?
Super sophisticated. Even from the Google point of view, I remember, I'll tell you more when we talk about it, but a guy I used to work with who was kind of trained me on all of the attribution measurement stuff. He was kind of like the head of that at Google, probably still is. A guy called Neil Hoyne. I remember him going there and telling me stories about just the insane setup. Like they're the most advanced
they do
with attribution stuff.
Over 1,000
They used
A/B
to be,
tests
yeah.
at once.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
crazy.
Right now, if you stop this podcast and go to Booking.com and you try a different browser, a different VPN, a different device, you will get a different website, like micro differences, right? Like a button's a different color, the copy's one word different, the color is slightly different. But Bilal, it's insane, right?
Yeah, incredible. And even on the ad side, they're trying like thousands of different types of ad techs. The bidding strategies are changing. One campaign has extensions, the other one doesn't. Like all the kind of details of search specifically, they're testing all of them.
Yeah, well, so we'll talk about that. A key point I want to make about Booking's A/B testing infrastructure is it's both technologically impressive, but also culturally impressive. Because if you want to build an A/B testing culture like they have, like if you're the CEO, you have to be willing to let the A/B test tell you you're fucking wrong, right? Like if you have an intuition and the A/B test says your idea is fucking dumb, you're out, right? It's like a cultural thing too, which we'll talk about. But Priceline, Bilal, you're right. Priceline. Do you remember who was the famous endorsement for Priceline?
I don't know, because maybe I didn't even see
William
it. William
Shatner.
Oh, yeah, okay, I do remember that.
Remember the 90s?
I mean, I've probably seen the thing, but I don't know if I saw them, to be honest, because they were probably in the US more than
fair
here.
enough. So Priceline was an American company. Yeah, you're right. Do you remember this company, Active Hotels?
Not really, no.
Okay. So in Europe in the late 90s, two companies came up, Booking and Active Hotels.
There was one called lastminute.com also was massive.
Yeah, it got scooped up by one of these guys, all captured. But think about it, it's a land grab, right? It's if you think about why independent hotels work for online e-commerce, it's because it's such a fractured market, right? It's the same thesis that Jeff Bezos had with Amazon and books. Books is the best category because there's so much inventory, and that a website could hold all that inventory that it'd be very difficult in any other medium, like a newspaper, for example. Is a newspaper going to have 100,000 different independent hotel listings that are constantly updated? Probably not, right? So a lot of the independent hotels in Europe in the late 90s were still using fax and phone. Fair enough. It's like internet wasn't super high penetration, but Active Hotels, which came out of England, what it did was it started giving people something called an Alcatel web phone. It's literally just a web phone that had a 36K modem connection, but they could update their room inventories. So Active Hotel was coming out of England. Booking.nl, which is the precursor to all of this, was out of Amsterdam, which is what Bilal said. And the key here is none of these people were hospitality or travel people. They're literally just like business people and technologists that saw the internet and were like, oh, booking online seems like a no-brainer, right? So Hilton Hotel has started a website in the mid-90s. So the booking guy just basically ripped off the Hilton website and like You put the room available, put the calendar, and put like a pricing and payment method, all for booking.nl. And the important thing about booking NL, which is why it kind of built the muscle to win, was Netherlands is obviously a small part of Europe, right? At the time, Netherlands 50 million population, 1.5. Europe about 500 million in the late 90s, maybe 400 or 500 million. So the population is less than 5%. So it had to learn how to operate in different languages, work with different countries and regulations, which becomes huge when you're rounding up all these independent hotels, right? Does it make sense? That makes sense as like I'm just saying like from a business standpoint, right, Bilal? Like that's why Expedia came from an American standpoint, had such a large market. It didn't actually have to learn how to operate with different languages. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
So something you had said, Bilal, what did you say was benefit of booking? It lets you cancel, right? Could you explain that a bit?
Yeah, I don't know if they offer it for everything anymore, but at one point, I'm pretty sure they offered like free cancellations as it's like when someone like a retailer introduced, free shipping for the first time or like just across the board. I think that was quite a big move from my understanding.
No, it was a big move.
You can book it like 2 months out and then, up to a few days before or like a day before you can cancel it a lot of the time, but it depends on the booking nowadays.
No, but Bilal, you literally nailed the key point as to how they outcompeted Expedia. So that's called do you know the difference between an agency and merchant model?
I saw you wrote in your piece, but explain that. What is that?
The merchant model, which is what Expedia in the United States does, is this. They buy up the hotel inventory at wholesale. So they'll go to independent hotel and be like, how many rooms do you have? They'll be like, we have 30 rooms. Expedia will buy 10 rooms at the wholesale price, and then they'll resell it. But what that means is, and you identified it, when you're buying something from Expedia, well, this is the late 90s, early 2000s, they probably changed their policy. You were paying them a down payment because they're trying to unload that inventory, right? So they're taking the money. That has a benefit though. That money is like insurance float. They get that money and they don't have to pay out the hotels until the guest stays at the room. So if the
so they're
guest,
earning a few percent on
exactly,
that too. Yeah.
They earn interest on that money. So that's an attractive business model. But as you identified, if you're booking room, what is the biggest pain in the dick when you're booking a room? Can I cancel? Literally, right?
Yeah.
Can I cancel? Plans change. I don't want to be on the hook for this. So booking an active hotel in Europe are operating on what's called the agency model. All they were doing was connecting the customer to the actual hotel. And you paid as a customer the day you arrived. And then they get a commission from that. So the downside for booking an active hotel is that they don't get the float, right? And it's also less customizable because you don't.
They can be way more nimble and like they don't have as much upfront cost as well, I guess.
Exactly, they're more nimble, but they also can't package it. They can't do interesting things that you'd have if you own the inventory, right?
Yeah.
You there's less certainty with what you can do. But the conversion was
essentially
so
like
much
massive
higher.
lead gen, right? Like their lead gen.
Exactly, dude. The conversion is so much higher. The CTO at Active Hotels said in 2004 that they were getting 2x conversion of merchants. So now you know what your customer wants, right? And this goes into the A/B testing. So they were getting higher conversions because, if free cancellation, dude, like you said, Bilal, you see free cancellation, immediately takes all the friction away. It's just like, you said with Amazon, free delivery. Takes so much friction away, you're getting so much more data. So what they were able to do was this. Booking in Europe was taking the higher conversion rate and spending more money on Google search because they knew they could fine-tune their website. So give an example, Bilal. If I'm trying to acquire a customer as an online travel agency, an OTA, like you said, they'll search for anything. But so give an example what they would pay for, like to pay for these keywords.
So like I said before, like if someone says best hotel in Barcelona,
yeah,
that's what I mean. They might pay a couple dollars for that click or something.
They're willing to pay though, right? Because they can fine tune how much
that
they
landing
can convert
page
that.
is going to be very specific, and then they're going to hit them with retargeting ads. So they've got you in the ecosystem essentially. They've pixeled you, and then you're going to keep seeing their ads and stuff like that to get that booking.
And Bilal,
made.
would you say this is a situation where if you have more volume, you can get even better and better and better?
Oh
at targeting?
yeah, exactly. It's like AI equivalent, right? Like the more data you have, the more useful it becomes.
So that's basically what happened. They were first mover on realizing with Google search that, yeah, it's expensive to acquire customers. And now they spend about a third of the revenue. So about 7 to 8 billion of the 24 bill, literally on Google search.
On paid ads,
a third of their revenue is to acquire customers. Crazy, right?
Crazy, yeah.
Paid. And
which makes sense in a way, like for that category. And can I just add to that, Trung? I think where they capitalized where other people messed up on that front was there's a measurement model. So most people, when you run ads, they operate for a long time. Most people still do it often is what's called last click conversion, right? So it just means that if a user, think of your actual experience as a user booking travel, whether that's a flight or hotel, you don't just think I'm booking a hotel in Barcelona and then today you buy it straight away, $2,000, right? Like you like go and read reviews, you go on TripAdvisor, you ask your friends, you go on the site, and then it takes several days, often, if not weeks. You need to speak to your wife about it, and then you make the decision.
Oh yeah.
Exactly, yeah, or vice versa. She's doing research and she's bringing it to you. And so the point was, for so many of those players, the way the infrastructure internally was such that they didn't, the CMO wouldn't be speaking the same language as the head of digital acquisition and the director of marketing and brand team. Like that is what you mentioned earlier. The cultural part is such a big part of this. You need to understand that we're acquiring customers long term. They're worth X amount in LTV, lifetime value. And what would happen is these guys were pioneers, honestly, in what we called attribution. So they would know, oh, our user is on average taking, I'm making numbers up, but 7 days to book. There's going to be 17 different touch points from a Google search, upper funnel to an image ad, to them reading on TripAdvisor, to etc. And so that level of understanding, like most people still struggle with that today. And so they were really they invested in it, you know what I mean? So that they had thousands of people working on that.
The Google search was investing in it, right? Like they were paying to get the traffic so they could learn, which is insane if you think about it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They realized this ahead of the market. So Expedia tried to enter Europe in the early 2000s with their merchant model. But exactly like you said, Bilal, I don't know if it's a European thing, but they saw that they had to put a down payment. Europeans were like, "Go kick rocks. we want free cancellation. We ain't giving you a down payment."
Yeah.
So Expedia tried to expand in Europe, failed. So Priceline looked at it. Priceline IPOs in 1999, $10 billion valuation. Priceline's business model, you're gonna laugh, Bilal. Do you remember Priceline's business model?
What was the difference?
It was called Name Your Own Price. You went to the website and you said, "This is my travel budget. It's $1,000." And they would
It's almost like a reverse auction, basically.
Yeah. And they would come back to you with a package. You might get a 2-star hotel and a dog and a crappy flight, but you got what you paid for, right?
That's quite interesting. I kind of like that.
It is, yeah. Though. It's a black box.
Yeah.
It's a black box, but that wasn't how the Europeans wanted it, right? I guess Americans were fine with it. It was worth $10 billion when it IPO'd. But by 2004, it had gone down $1 billion, .com bubble burst, all that. So in 2004, Priceline YOLOs. They realized the name your own price system does not work. They go and acquire Active Hotel and Booking at 294 mil back to back. Those two companies had tried to merge previously because Active Hotels was big in UK and had a lot of properties in France. Booking was big in Netherlands and the rest of Europe, Spain, as an example. They were the perfect fit. They tried to merge. It didn't work out. Priceline comes in, buys both of them. Within 5 years of acquisition, Priceline goes from losing $100 million a year to $1 billion in profit. They acquired basically the entire independent hotel ecosystem in Europe. Genius acquisition. And like you said, today, That company is worth $170 billion. It's the largest travel company in the world. It's 2x Airbnb. It's 2x Carnival Cruises, which is a massive company also. It's bigger than any airline by a mile. TripAdvisor is worth $2 billion now, right? Expedia is worth $20 billion. Booking is an absolute juggernaut, and it's because of these acquisitions that they made. It's up there with Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube. I mean, those are worth probably $500 billion now. But if you're talking $100 trillion acquisition $100 billion, Booking is in that ballpark. That's how big it is.
Yeah, insane. No, and I'm just looking at their market cap chart there a second ago, and it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think I remember buying their stock a long time ago. For a while, I kept it, and I eventually sold it because as I mentioned in another pod, I basically sold most individual stocks. And my insight was, again, I never worked on it. I didn't have any like inside knowledge, but I just knew from the grapevine they're like incredibly advanced. And like the only people, I just remember speaking to the teams who would work with those teams, and they were like so impressed, and that for me was already just like, okay, that's a good insight into they're probably operating advanced in market in terms, at least. I don't know anything about the other side, but that's and the other one that always stood out was that Netflix was really, really, really good at the micro testing, A/B testing, as we've probably talked about in the pod before. And they were the same with advertising too. They just had so much creative testing. Like they were just way more advanced than most people in the category.
Who else was in the same breath? You mentioned Netflix.
Those two really stand out. I'm trying to think who else. I mean, in retail, honestly, a lot of what we would call like pure play brands, which were like, they were e-com first, so they like in the UK, that's when I used to work on retail more. It was like Net-a-Porter,
okay.
ASOS. Like they were because their whole business was built on ads, right? Like all the distribution comes from ads for a lot of those companies. So but they weren't culturally, they were digital first companies. That's probably a better way to put it. They weren't, Macy's, who had something that worked forever, or Coach were actually quite decent on the digital side, but they had like an existing way of doing ads, and it was print, TV, the old school way of doing things.
Brick and mortar style, right?
Exactly, brick and mortar. And then as soon as it changed, there weren't that many that really doubled down. So that's how like ASOS even could compete, right? Like they were, a little bit cheaper, but they were in the UK, they were already what were called like high street brands like Topman, Topshop, equivalent of Zara, Uniqlo and stuff nowadays. But those guys had more of a complicated problem, right? Because a lot of those people, 90% of sales still happen in store. So they have that drop off in attribution. So people would click, do research online, what was called ROPO, research online, purchase offline. Right, so you'd research online and you'd be like, actually, but I'm going to go in store and try it on because I need to make sure the shirt fits or whatever. And there was such a huge drop off, and it honestly probably still is, of that. What I paid for that money online, and the conversion, the sale happened offline, and they don't speak to each other.
Yeah.
And so that is, but think about how that works at a cultural level of a big company. They give a budget. Like if I'm a CMO, I give a budget to the head of digital e-commerce, and I give a budget to my in-store people a lot of the time. And they're competing for budget. So like we will talk about, incentives rule here. And I even spoke to some retailers who, they would literally tell me, say they're the head of digital and e-commerce, they would say, I don't care about online sales because that doesn't pay my bonus and it doesn't get me more resources in my team. So I don't even want to, because there were features that would, you could drive people to a local store, let's say.
Don't even, bro, take that feature away.
They're literally like, take it or turn it off.
Bonus.
Yeah, they're literally like, there was something called, I think it was like store extensions or something. So if I search on my phone for Macy's, let's say, there wasn't Macy's, but just as an example, and it says, oh, you can go and buy these Evisu jeans right now in Macy's, like, and it's a 3-minute walk from you, they will like turn that off because I'm not going to get the sale attributed to my channel. So that's the sort of stuff whereas like these pure play booking.com, they don't have that problem. They're just pure play, make sure this number is below this number and it makes sense. So that, yeah, dude, I don't know who else. Yeah.
Well, Bilal, let me just rattle off the A/B testing stuff. So I'll tell you, actually, Google used to run events for these advertisers, right? So a guy named Stuart Frisbee, he was the head of design at Booking.
What a great name.
He did a presentation in 2017 at a Google event talking about the A/B testing culture. I'll just give 5 bullet points quickly, and it kind of tracks what you said and what we discussed earlier. So you remember, what does HIPPO mean in corporate jargon? HIPPO. Highest paid person, person's opinion, right? Basically, it just means the CEO or senior executive. So Booking, as we kind of discussed earlier, does not allow for HIPPO. It's like, it does not matter if you're senior or higher paid. A/B test. That's it. Does your idea work? That's the only thing that matters. So
prove it with the data is kind of the
prove it with the data,
ultimate.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so the why the culture has stuck for at this 20 years now since the deal is that the guy that acquired, so the head of M&A at Priceline, Glenn Fogel, the guy that acquired Active Hotels and Booking, is now the CEO of Booking. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So he understands that culture. So no HIPPO is number one, is like the data speaks. Number 2 is literally you're a brand new hire at Booking. You can get access to A/B testing and run an A/B test within a week of being there.
Oh, wow.
The only thing is you just have to have a hypothesis. So they have this whole thing that you fill out, right? Is like, what's the KPI you're trying to achieve? How long are you running this test? How many people trying to meet? What region? And then you hit it and they'll let you do it, right? It's crazy. You could run any A/B test on there. They have a catalog of things you can do. They obviously have like countermeasures to make sure, like you had said, Bilal, that you're not optimizing for one thing at the expense of something else. So they obviously have to balance that out. But everything they've done over the years has seeped into like Travel 101. So here's some things that you've obviously seen, which are hilarious now. They're the basics, right? Is like, how many people are looking at this property? It was something they A/B tested. And obviously that creates the idea of scarcity, right? That
like that thing, it says like 12 people looking at us right now. Or
everybody does it now.
Or on e-commerce, they'll say like 17 people bought this today or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Or like there's 3 rooms left here. Obviously, everyone does that now.
Time constraint,
and here's an interesting one. They A/B tested and found out free Wi-Fi doesn't work, or explaining that you have Wi-Fi, but explaining you have Wi-Fi for a specific thing converts, like streaming. If it's Wi-Fi for streaming, for some reason, people think it works. Another one they found, which is hilarious, but also makes sense, is toilet paper is available. That's a big one. And then
that's it. Yeah, but again, who would even think about it until the hypothesis? Some intern is like, "Yo, I had this problem at a hotel.
Exactly.
Let's test it." And they're like, "All right, let's throw it in the mixer here."
So they say basically that 90% of hypotheses fail now because most of the low-hanging fruit's been picked. But they're running 1,000 at a time. They also have to retest their hypotheses because consumer behavior changes all the time. So they're running 1,000 plus at a time. So that means there are over 100 billion versions of Booking.com right now in the world available. Versions of the websites.
It's insane. Amazing.
But
but I think your key point there, Trung, is from my point of view, the culture is so key, because when you just work with different companies, you see very quickly, like, do they care about this or not? And like what you said there about the data-driven thing, making it easy, within a week you can spin this up. They've organized their company to prioritize that as a key part of the organization. Similarly at Google, when I was there anyway, versus now, I don't know. It was always about like show the data. Like it's more like show, don't tell. Like, don't just tell me you think this is going to work. Like, go and run the test and show me with data that this actually worked. And there's obviously pros and cons.
This links back to what you had said about, did you say Chanel was an example of
well, I said Coach, but yeah, but
okay, yeah,
Chanel
Coach
too.
So
yeah,
Coach is a great example, right?
Team.
So Coach is a more traditional fashion company, and they probably would not be super comfortable with A/B testing, right? You probably have very high paid executives. I'm not saying they don't, but I'm saying
they were probably not the best, because the digital head that was actually really savvy, like the sort of person who I remember would remember a slide 3 from a 300 deck slides, but that isn't necessarily the CMO, right? Like the CMO is more like they want to be in vogue, they want to be like these.
Exactly,
it's art versus science.
100%, and not to say that doesn't is relevant, but that would work
both,
for them, right? So actually, it looks like we probably have 13 minutes here, so I'll do this. Let me talk about Booking and AI, because this is interesting, right?
Definitely.
And then let's just finish with Fred Smith. We won't FedEx
Perfect.
because it's related. I guess it's kind of related, right? Commercial, air travel. Anyways, the AI is an interesting question. Can AI take out booking, right? This is the question. Like,
Or
Bilal,
will
this
they
is very much
build it internally to be the one who takes it out?
exactly. So
It's like
actually,
Google
Bilal, let
search.
me ask you this and how it tracks with what you're thinking as somebody that's an expert in this field about the digital acquisition side. So the big criticism or concern that a booking and the OTAs had is that agents and chats will intermediate them, right? Like there's something called Model Context Protocol, which is what Anthropic started. It's connecting these LLMs to
MCP.
external databases, right? And the question that comes up is this. So the Decoder podcast did an interview with Dara Karakowski, the CEO of Uber, who was also the former CEO of Expedia. He understands marketplaces. And Nilay Patel from Decoder asked him, why would you allow the Uber inventory to go to OpenAI and ChatGPT? Would you not get disintermediated? This is Dara Karakowski's answer, the CEO of Uber. He said, honestly, we don't want to run against technology. We want to meet consumers where they are, and they're clearly going to chatbots. But this is his point, Bilal. He's like, we've brought together the inventory. We have 10 million drivers on the Uber platform. ChatGPT and OpenAI will not individually go out to every single of these drivers, right? We've already done it. We manage that. It's a fractured marketplace, and we think there's so much value in that, and we control that database. He says, if ChatGPT is giving us more traffic, we're happy to take it. They can get a cut of delivering us a new customer. But he's like, I'm not terribly worried about that. I listen to that. I'm like, man, that's the exact same situation as Booking. They've aggregated all of these hotels, the independent hotels, right? There's hundreds, thousands of them. And they have all these other rooms that they have, right? From like Airbnb style, Verbo style, and villas and apartments. So my question to you, Bilal, is does that track? They have a defense against AI, as in they still control the part that matters, the inventory.
I guess so, but I guess the question is, can someone else get control if they prove demand on the front end? You know what I mean? But my point of view on it is they probably are going to be the ones who develop it. If anyone's going to do it, I think it'll probably be them. Because just think of that idea of, you've described it as like the chat version of, like, the position would be like a private booking agent for you, right? Like an AI agent booking it for you. And all the research you're used to doing right now yourself, you'd be just going back and forth, but then you can actually book it. And you trust, oh, they actually found the best deal for me. The same way right now you'd pay like a private person to do that for you. So I'm not sure exactly the answer to what you said, but I think if anyone's going to do it, it'll probably be. But I think they're really well positioned to do it because it takes that same culture we talked about and a focus on that. So I didn't read the full end part of your thing there, but is that something they're looking to do? I take it, right?
Oh, they have. They partner with OpenAI to do something called the AI Trip Planner.
Got it.
So what Booking has said is this. So actually, Bilal, you touched on this earlier when you're talking about the customer journey of a traveler. You're like, you know what, your partner might, like your wife might go look it through where we should go. So Booking says they're actually not great on the ideation side. Like once a traveler has decided to go,
TripAdvisor, I feel like, is where a lot of people go.
Yeah, exactly. They can
and
convert,
now ChatGPT.
They can convert someone that has decided on a trip, but they don't actually do a ton of the trip planning. So they're basically saying, actually, ChatGPT can really help, and these AI models can help, like generate demand for us. So yeah. Anyways, let's wrap that up. Unless you had a final thought.
No. I think I think just the last thing I say on it is kind of the innovator's dilemma thing we've talked about with Google Search versus Gemini. It's same. They've got this cash cow working. They've established the number one player in it, and they, at some point, let's say user behavior changes enough. I don't think it's fully there yet. I do think lots of people are using ChatGPT and LLMs for travel research specifically, but it's not like everyone's already doing it. And as that starts to shift, I think they've done a good job to be in that conversation already with OpenAI. But I think it's fine. Like they're treading carefully. Sorry. And similar, honestly, with Google, because we don't have to go through all of it right now. But in 2010, they bought a company, I think it was called ITA. And they were, travel was one of Google's biggest categories, right? Obviously, booking was the biggest spender, but the whole category was one of the biggest categories for Google search. And then they bought this, I think it was called ITA. It was like almost $1 billion.
It was ITA, yeah.
Yeah. And so that there was all this speculation back then, like, Booking, all these guys going to pull out their spend. It was kind of this frenemy relationship because Google was clearly developing products for flight planning, hotel planning,
they
all
made
that
Google
sort of stuff.
Hotels.
Yeah, Google Hotels, exactly. And Google Flights is actually really good. But think about all the equivalent of Booking.com, but for flights. What is it? Kayak or Skyscanner were the big ones, I think, back then anyway.
No, but what I'll say is this.
Yeah.
Google Hotels, you brought up such a great example because Booking survived that, right?
Yeah.
Booking even just said, listen, at the end of the day, we control the inventory. Our name is what matters the most. Since that acquisition, Booking stock is up 3x. Its revenues up 50%. So it survived. The great example.
Yeah. Great. All right, talking of surviving, great segue into our guy from FedEx, RIP. I don't know that much about this except for a few tweets I'll tee up. This was friend of the pod, Buko well, friend of you more than me, but Buko Capital. I think you know this geezer, right? Fred Smith, the founder of FedEx, saved the company from potential bankruptcy in 1973 by gambling the last $5,000 of the company's funds on a blackjack game in Las Vegas, winning 27 grand. This unexpected win allowed FedEx to cover a critical fuel bill and continue operations for another week, giving Smith time to secure additional funding and restructure the company's operations. Obviously now, a massive story, because apparently that's true. Apparently you did actually do this.
It's 100% true.
Yeah. So yeah, where do you want to take this?
Let me talk about Fred Smith a bit.
Yeah.
First, let's chill. Legit friend of the pod, David Senra, Founders Podcast. Listen to his episode on Frederick Smith. Incredible episode about the biography of the CEO and founder of FedEx. But Bilal, so let me tell a little bit of his story, but I want to ask you a meta question to wrap this up by the end of the story. There are fewer and fewer stories like what I'm about to tell, and it has a lot to do with the low-hanging fruit of business has kind of been picked, right? And millennials and younger, we all try to go to career tracks way earlier. So there's less kind of interesting lives happening. And I want you to chew on that as you listen to the story. So Fred Smith, born in 1944, actually came from a pretty wealthy family in the Memphis region. His old man sold a auto company to Greyhound, which became Greyhound Bus. And then Fred Smith ended up going to Yale. You know who his classmates at Yale were? John Kerry and George W. Bush, the two presidential candidates. Yeah.
Wait, what year is that roughly?
The early 60s.
Damn.
Yeah, he's boys
Legendary.
with the two presidential candidates of the 2004 election.
Good company,
crazy,
I
right?
guess, yeah.
So Fred Smith went to Yale. Famously at Yale, while studying economics, he wrote a term paper pitching the idea of an overnight commercial delivery business. He got a C-.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But during university, he also was a charter pilot. So interesting guy already, right? After university, goes to Vietnam, serves 2 tours of duty. His best friend dies in his arms after a gunfight. And he ends up winning multiple Purple Hearts, other medals for his service. Then he leaves, inherits $4 million from his dad, and then buys a airplane maintenance company and turns it into a used jet marketplace. So just to summarize, he's in his mid-20s now, has served 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, has an economics degree from Yale, was a charter pilot, and was running a jet trading business. These things just don't happen anymore. It's quite rare to hear these stories.
Yeah,
Most
mad.
people by the age of 25 are getting their master's degree in whatever thing they chose to do, right?
Working on their deep research PhD or something by this point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just I'll get to the start of the story, but FedEx is now worth $55 billion. But his pitch was actually quite ingenious. Is Memphis, have you ever been to Memphis?
No, but was that home of 3-6 Mafia? Is that right?
Yeah,
Memphis, Tennessee.
Elvis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to go. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'd love to go, but Memphis, where he's from, why did they pick it to become what ultimately became FedEx, the super hub? Because Memphis is basically geographically in the middle of the country. And then he's like, while overnight commercial flights from New York to LA is quite difficult to deliver a parcel, right? To have somebody fly cross country, why don't we just have everyone come into Memphis? It's half the time. We'll repackage everything and send it back out. How much sense? It's a really smart pitch, right? And Memphis has quite mild weather. So there's not a lot of delays once the packages get to Memphis. And also the city of Memphis was looking for a business line to help expand. So the airport was very, very accommodative to this idea. However, Fred Smith started the business in 1971. When he launched it, taking the inheritance and bought 14 jets and went out to 25 cities in 1973. Bilal, what happened in 1973 in the Middle East? Something famous happened that year. Do you remember?
Asking the wrong guy.
Okay, it was it's somewhere Israel had a war in the Middle East. And
Okay, that could have been a few different years.
The Arab oil embargo. You
Oh,
remember
yeah,
that?
okay, yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Wasn't that Iraq?
They
Wasn't
cut
that
off
Iraq,
oil.
Kuwait or something?
Yeah, well, Saudi, like a lot of the Arab countries.
Yeah, okay.
They cut off their oil. And that jacked up the oil prices. So Fred Smith had started an airplane delivery business as the Arab oil embargo happens. That's partially why he needed to go to do the blackjack table. Anyway, survives that. The rest is history. But yeah, so the other thing I was going to say was, I don't know if this is confirmation bias, but what do you think about my idea that the lesser and lesser of these stories of people doing crazy shit because everybody's kind of one-tracking their lives so early?
Yeah, I mean, when I read this, because there was another post that had like the longer story, and obviously you just described it in a lot more detail. I think both can be true. I think there are less people doing it to a certain extent, but I do agree there is survivorship bias in this, because there may be people who did stuff like this that we're just not even hearing about by this point. But I'm talking specifically about that bet part where he bet $5,000, because after we talked about it recently, I'm now rereading Psychology Money again just to keep it fresh in the brain, so I'm not doing silly stuff all the time. One of the early chapters is on luck versus risk, right? And the example he gives is Microsoft, the three founders everyone thinks of, the first two, and then there's the third guy, and he gives the example of them being the first high school. There's literally a 1 in a million chance for them to have a computer in their high school. And then there's, on the flip side, that was lucky. And then on the flip side, the risk that the third guy took going mountain climbing or whatever, there was a 1 in a million chance of him dying, and he did, unfortunately.
Morgan House's book.
Yeah, Morgan House's book, exactly, yeah. So that's just one example of this, where let's say this guy turns up in Vegas with $5,000 and gambles it away and he doesn't win, and the company shuts down, which could easily happen, right? I don't think we'd be saying the same story. It's a little bit like, oh, well, there's results-based analysis, obviously. Yeah, we wouldn't even know about it, exactly. And so, yeah, I guess the question is, even if this story is true, like, there is also the element of he actually built a real business, right? It wasn't like it was worthy of saving. He just he needed a bit of luck. And that's the case. In all these scenarios, you do need luck to go your way often as well. And so maybe you can say, did he create his own luck? Yeah, but if he's literally at a blackjack table in Vegas, there's an element of luck involved here. So, but who knows? Maybe if that didn't go through, he would have convinced someone else, and he he had the agency to do that. But I do think there was a little bit of that survivorship bias in the story, obviously.
Oh yeah, for sure. Don't do not investment advice,
Definitely
not financing advice.
But it is interesting, Trung. Like when I'm thinking even from Creator Lab interviews I've done, like some of the most memorable moments in people's stories was they were literally going bankrupt. I mean, even Charity Water, where I worked for a few years, they had a plan to close down. And Michael Birch, who's now the biggest funder, he was the founder of Bebo, a really famous guy in Silicon Valley who owns I forgot that private members club, but there's a really cool place he runs as well. He came in after Scott Harrison had pitched like 6 different. He cold emailed Mark Zuckerberg, I think this guy Michael Birch, and 3-4 other people in like a last ditch attempt, and like eventually Michael Birch turned up to the office. He thought the pitch went really, really poorly, and next day he wired him crazy amount of money and it gave him like a year's worth of runway. And that's a true story. And I think that's a more replicable
story than a blackjack table.
Yeah, at least it's like pitching someone. And again, who knows? I think Scott's telling the truth, but I think also obviously it's part of the marketing of the org, right? Like you're going to tell these amazing hero's journey stories. So, but yeah, man, great. R.I.P. Obviously, I don't know anything else about him, but sounds like a legendary move either way. Very NIA. All right, Trung, I know you've been up here for a while with your back, so thanks for doing this. Enjoy your travels, mate. We will see you on the flip side. Thanks for rocking with us, everyone. We got lots of amazing. Make sure you're tuned in for next few episodes. Sick AMAs, some of my favorite episodes, and then Jack and I'll be holding it down for a couple episodes as well. So we'll see you guys soon. Cheers. Bye bye.